evening leading to the weekend and holiday weekend with Memorial Day. I don't know about y'all, but I'm fatigued and I am frustrated. We'll talk a little bit about why tonight. I could desperately use a weekend here, especially a long weekend with a holiday and some really good festivals. I know this is the annual Greek festival this weekend, which if you haven't been, strongly encourage you to go over there Friday through Sunday. It's a really fun time and way to celebrate a great part of our culture here in New Orleans and Louisiana with our great community. So hopefully you'll go out and support it. And it's tough to watch sports last night. Yeah, I think people know from my prior broadcast that my son works for the New York Knicks. And oh, my goodness. I don't know how an NBA team could lose what I think a 17-point lead with a few minutes to go in the game on a prayer by the other team to tie it in regulation. But that was if you're a Knicks fan, that may be one of the hardest losses to take that I've seen in sports, and it'll be. I know my son was bummed out. It'll be real interesting to watch over the next week here if the Knicks can recover from that. It's a long series. That was only game one, so you got to win 4 games. But when you lose a game like that, it's tough. It's very tough. Well, my co-host Cary Grant called me earlier today. Was in New York, and they had some delays in travel, so he is on his way back to NOLA. Couldn't make it tonight, so you've got me solo. I hope that you will join us tonight. It's a lot more fun to hear from you on the different topics. 504-582-9422. Really would love for you to participate. Our callers have been growing as the show goes on, and we hope that you will give us your thoughts and input. And you don't have to agree. You can disagree. You can comment on anything you'd like or on any of the topics we may cover. So I told you I'm frustrated and I'm angry. I woke up this morning and to the news on national television that 2 names that you probably have never heard of, Yaron Lachinsky and Sarah Milgram, 2 young mid-20s persons that are diplomats for the Israeli embassy, were at an event last night in Washington, D.C., not just an event to go to, an event to support humanitarian aid for Gaza and for other parts of the world. That's what the event that they were at last night. And as they walked out of the event, a lunatic decided that because of his own political views, that it was time for him to take their life. 2 young people that were 1 week away from becoming engaged, rings had been bought, were in the prime of their life, and had everything ahead of them. And instead, an idiot who had strong views on what's happening in Israel decided that their lives weren't worth living anymore. Now, folks, you can have different views than I do on Israel. As people know, if they've heard from me, I am a very pro-Israel person. I'm a supporter of Israel. I don't agree with every policy of the Israeli government. But you know what? In no way, in no circumstance, in no justification, should we ever be talking about that justifies what this person did to these 2 young people. I'm not even going to mention the person's name because I don't want to give them that credibility. This is not the way America works. This is not the way humanity works. We've seen this story before. We've seen this at an AMA church in Charleston. We've seen it in Buffalo, New York, with the slaughter of how many? 8 to 10 African Americans. We've seen it in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue. This is not how you react to different politics that may go on in our country or the world. Again, you may not agree with different American policy. You may not agree with what we're doing relative to Ukraine or Israel or South Africa yesterday or a variety of topics. But do you know what you don't do? You don't resort to violence. All right? You have voices. You have First Amendment rights. You can speak to issues. That's the beauty of our country. But you cannot go to an event, which is ironic. I mean, the irony of this is an event that was designed to have discussion about how do we help with humanitarian aid for what's happening in Gaza. How do you go from that and find two people? I'm not sure he even knew who these people were. Okay. And as they walked out of a meeting, killing them viciously, and then trying to justify with the words free Palestine, free Palestine. BS, free Palestine. Okay? That's not what this is about. You don't get the right to take somebody's life because you don't agree with foreign policy. That isn't the way we operate in this country. It's not the way that we should operate just as human beings. So I'm mad. I'm frustrated. Okay? There are ways to have civil dialogue. There are ways to discuss difficult topics. We all want to see an end to what's happening in Israel and Gaza. All right? I promise you, I want to see the hostages released. There's 20 live hostages, is what they're saying. I want to see the hostages released. I want to see the conflict end in Gaza. Okay? I don't want to see any more deaths of Palestinian people, especially children and young and infants. All right? I don't want to see the deaths of any more Israelis. 1,200 were butchered on October 7, and more have died in this conflict. But come on. Let's not get to a point where in a world where we're somehow justifying actions here because of political context. And, I watched on TV this morning and, they just happened to catch her. But, the cameras caught up to Ilhan Omar, a representative from Minnesota, who's of Somalian descent, has been very Israel. We know her views. And they asked her, what do you think? And her answer was, I'm going to go for now. That quote, I'm going to go for now. Now, later in the day, out of defense, she put out a tweet that condemned the killings. Okay. I don't want our elected officials to be afraid to make a statement because of their own political views. I mean, when there is deaths that are caused here, we should be condemning it no matter where it comes from. I mean, again, I'm speaking to a largely African-American audience, all right? We saw what happened in this country. All right, we saw what happened during Jim Crow laws. We saw what happened in Charleston and Buffalo and a multitude. There's many more, okay? And I'm proud when our country, whether you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, whatever it might be, that when those kind of things happen, you're unafraid to take a position and say that and condemn it and say it's wrong and it can't be allowed. And I got to tell you, as a Jewish American, anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. This is not some word, some slogan, some phrase. There are people that are being threatened every hour in our own country, from both the right and the left. I have blamed our president because I think he has given in a tacit way the far right to espouse hate, that almost condoned it. We know that. We've seen that, Charlottesville and many others. But you also see it on the left. The perpetrator last night was not a far right white supremacist. He was a far left progressive, okay, from a very radical group that's on a terror list, all right, who doesn't agree with things that are going on in the Middle East. And we need to be condemning it wherever it comes from. I don't care if it's right, left, middle, in any way. When people are threatened, when they can't walk the streets, when they can't wear religious apparel, all right, we as a country, white, black, everyone, and we should be condemning it. When we see racism on our streets, when we see discrimination, when we see a government trying to take down DEI and take down other policies, it's important for all of us, again, white, black, Hispanic, and everyone, to stand up and speak for what's right. I know I'm going to try to do it as much as I can humanly do it as I have a voice on this radio station, because you've all heard me before. I know there's fragmentation between the Jewish and the African American communities. I've heard it. I've heard callers just in the last hour on this station talk it, and it bothers me. It disturbs me when I hear it, because our two communities, the black community and the Jewish community, of all the communities in the world, should be the two communities that stand together, lock our arms together, and say we are unified and there is no space between us. When there's difference, we can talk about it civilly. But trust me, folks, the people that hate Jews hate African Americans and vice versa. All right? If they could get rid of both of us, they would do it. So why are we fighting each other? Why are we dividing and allowing others on the left or the right to divide us? Please, please, let's not do that. All right? We can do better as a New Orleans community, as a state, as a country. Let's not do that. 504-582-9422. Love to hear your thoughts on that. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit tonight, and we're going to talk about a lot of things because I got a whole series of topics. Certainly, we got to talk about the big, beautiful bill that passed last night. And I don't know, it's so big. Well, it's big. I don't think it's all that beautiful, but it's definitely big. But the other thing I got to talk about is we got to expect more here in New Orleans. All right. We make so many excuses. I love this city. I've been here 25 years. There's not a place that I'd want to be anywhere in the world than New Orleans. But we got to do better in terms of expectations for this city. I mean, we all know how hard it is just to drive down our roads, okay? And to see lights out and, just basic stuff. And, in the next elections, I mean, the first thing, if I was running for mayor or running for council, the first thing I'd be saying is, I'm not worried about sexy things. I'm going to worry about the basic stuff of New Orleans. Our lights, our crime, our roads, things like that, because that's really what the people want right now, is they want to hear from candidates that we're going to basically make this city functional. We do all the great things. We do all the fun things. There's no city in America that has more culture, more fun than we do. But somehow we got to do the basics. We got to expect the basics. We got to also expect that our elected officials do their jobs, okay? And I want to say this. This is not to point fingers at anybody. I said this last night. I'll say it a number of times. Susan Hudson is a really good person. She's a friend. She's been on this show before, all right? But what happened Friday is a terrible negative thing for our city, all right? For a lot of reasons, because of the fear that it caused within the community, having, 10, 11 inmates at loose, all right? You have victims that are worried. You have witnesses that were worried. It's a bad thing. It's a black eye on our city. And unfortunately, every news outlet across the country and the world has picked it up and continues to pick it up. On January 1, the terrorist attack was a black eye for the city of New Orleans. Okay? You can't say it any different. I mean, we failed to do some things. Where was the car that was supposed to block Bourbon Street? It wasn't there. Where was the truck, the vehicle, the armored vehicles? So again, I'm not casting blame. These things happened. I don't like the fact that over the last few days, it seems like everybody has an opinion. It's almost like the elections have started and we're going to use this as an election. Let's not do that. That's not right. Okay. I think Sheriff Hudson did absolutely the right thing in suspending her campaign. This is not the time for politics. Whether she wants to resume that or not is her choice, and the voters will decide, who should be the next sheriff. But here's what I don't want us to do. Please, let's not continue to use divisive issues like race, all right, as it relates to that. It doesn't matter that our police chief is white and may have not done the perfect job January 1st. It doesn't matter if Sheriff Hudson is African American and may not have done the job on Thursday of last week. That's not the issue. The issue is not race. All right? People want to use that, but that's not the issue. The issue is many things. One is, how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? Let's make sure all these investigations that occurred after the terrorist attack in New Year's, and now with this, we have 4 different investigations going on from this jailbreak. All right, let's make sure that we have enough facts that it can never happen again. That's the most important thing. And of course, catching the people that are still out there, that's really the most important thing. And then third, you'll have time to decide who our leader should be. Well, we have an election coming up in 4 months. All right. If you feel strongly one way or the other about the sheriff, and if the sheriff is still in the race, you'll have a chance to hear from her during the campaign and vote for her. As it relates to our police chief, it's a little different because she's not an elected officer. She works at the behest of the mayor. If you didn't like what she did, then candidly, you should be expressing that frustration to the mayor, all right, because she works for the mayor. So it frustrates me a lot when I listen to different people with different views, and we try to interject race into this. We all live in this great city. We are all privileged to live in this city. It is, as I said, the greatest city in this country. That's why most of us stay, despite how difficult and how costly it is to live here. We all should want the same thing, which is to have the best people elected or working for the city that make our city better. Doesn't matter if that person is white or black, okay, or Hispanic or Jewish or Latino or, again, Asian. That's not the issue. The issue is who is going to do the best job for us and who is going to roll their sleeves up as we go into the next elections here and into the future, because I think this is a very important election. Who is going to bring us to that next level? Because, folks, if we make mistakes and we elect wrong people again, we're in deep trouble. Our city is losing population by the day. Okay, we can't afford to do that. Our tax base is going to dwindle in a big way, that we're not going to be able to provide the services if we keep losing. We got to go the other direction. We got to increase the population and a lot of other things. So, that's my soapbox. I'm sorry that I had to come across so strong, but I think most people agree with what I'm saying. At least I would like to think they do, that we want the best people representing us. We want people that are good people with great heart. We don't want, as we saw, if you read the paper this morning, I don't want to wake up and look at us and read a story about some guy who's heading up a State Department who's being indicted because of fraud, okay, and bribery. That's not what we want. All right, folks, we will be back right on the other side. Again, 504-582-9422. Want to give you my perspective and talk a little bit about the bill that passed, 6 a.m. this morning, and where that bill goes from here in terms of Washington. Be back in just a minute.
Get in on the conversation at 504-582-9422.
Hey, WBOK, Ron Richardson here, host of a new show called Conversations with Ron Richardson. Join me every Saturday live from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. as we sit down and discuss mental health, disability, drug addiction, and everyday life issues. If you're ready to have a real conversation, let's get it started, New Orleans. Every Saturday from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here on WBOK and streaming worldwide on WBOK1230.com.
I'm David Patan Sr., owner of Whole Water and Food Over Medicine Academy, coach, consultant, and instructor We're excited about our 21-day challenge. Stop, prevent, and reverse disease today. Cholesterol, diabetes type 2, high blood pressure, along with chronic illnesses and diseases. We believe that the gift of wellness is the greatest gift, and for $30 per month, $1 a day, you could have this gift for you and your family.
I'm Phyllis Washington, and I've benefited with health and weight loss.
For your gift of $30, healing and wellness can be yours. Call 504-701-4711. That's 504-701-4711. The Whole Water Store. See you at 2135 Washington Avenue today.
Hi, I'm Leo Jackson, host of Sunday Gospel here every Sunday morning, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. You don't want to miss this move of God. It happens only on WBOK. You listen to all day long.
Real issues, real talk, real solutions. Miss an episode of The Reality Check? You can catch every episode anytime. Search WBOK Media on your favorite podcast app to tap the bold commentary, real-time reactions, and powerful perspectives from the people and leaders shaping our city. Download, share, and rate it 5 stars because the real ones always stay informed.
WBOK, online at WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
All right, we are back. Again, love to hear from you tonight, 504-582-9422, as we begin to look forward to the holiday weekend. Before I talk about the bill in D.C., I just want to really extend kudos to President William Tate from LSU. He made his announcement, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, that he will be leaving July 1st to become the new president at Rutgers University in New Jersey. That's a big state school. And I have to say, it's a real loss for our state. President Tate did a really terrific job. He's only been in office, I think, for 4 years. Came in during COVID, a difficult time. There was a Title IX investigation going on that was pretty ugly that he was able to resolve. But probably the best thing he did is he really enhanced the enrollment at LSU. He both in Baton Rouge and its other campuses in the state. You know, while other universities are struggling, LSU its numbers of enrollment went through the roof. And, you know, and not only for Louisiana kids, but for out-of-state kids. You know, it's funny because the one school has probably done that better than anybody the last decade is University of Alabama, which years ago, I mean, candidly, unless you lived in the state of Alabama, you really weren't going there, okay? And I could say that because my mom's went to Alabama. LSU is becoming that. It's becoming an attraction for out-of-state students because they see, first of all, they see it on TV. They see the football games. They see what it is to have a Saturday at Tiger Stadium. But they translate it into wanting to come here. And, you know, Dr. Tate did an amazing job with that. He also raised a ton of money. You know, $200 million more in research dollars were raised by him than what LSU had before. So, again, we wish him well. It'll be interesting to see who the next president. He also is the first African-American president in the history of not only LSU, but in the Southeastern Conference, as I understand. So that is a big story. He did a tremendous job here. We owe him a debt of gratitude, and we'll be sorry to see him go, but we wish him all the best as he heads to New Jersey. Now, I don't know why you'd want to live in New Jersey when you could be in Louisiana, but hey, you know, people go and change jobs for different reasons.
Right.
All right, so I want to turn to the big, beautiful bill. You know, I tuned in the TV last night. It was about 9 o'clock, and the Rules Committee was still meeting, and they were doing their thing. And then about 12 o'clock, it finally passed out of the Rules Committee and went to the floor of the House. And I think it was about dawn this morning that the thing actually got a vote. It passed by one vote, by the way, one vote. You know, some people may be surprised by that. I wasn't surprised. I mean, Trump had gone to Congress Tuesday. I mean, people were not going to vote against it. This guy, the one guy who voted against is Thomas Massie out of Kentucky. He's just a negative on everything. Okay, he is not he's just a. I don't have much respect for him. He's just negative on everything, and and again, he's a hardcore Republican. But Trump could not sway him. But he couldn't. They couldn't afford to lose anybody else, which they did not. So they arm twisted. Now, before I tell you the negatives, let me tell you two positives, okay? There are actually two positives.
Are there really?
There really are.
Okay.
There really are. I didn't even know this. I just learned this today. Buried in the bill was a $50 million per year benefit to the state of Louisiana to give them more money for coastal restoration. It's kind of an enhancement. If people will remember, after Katrina, Senator Mary Landrieu did an amazing job with a bill called GOMESA, GOMESA, which gave Louisiana and some of the other southern states money each year because of the damage that you do to our coast with energy exploration and everything else. But there was some caps on that. Under this, they've raised the caps. And what it translates to is $50 million a year more for the state of Louisiana towards coastal restoration. Folks, that's a good thing. Okay, I'm not thrilled that it's coming through this bill. It seems pretty unrelated to everything. But $50 million is nothing to sneeze at. And as you all know, we are still losing. They used to say a football field every hour. I don't know if it's a football field anymore, but we're losing whatever it might be per hour. So anything we could do to keep the coast restored and put more land back, protects us when we have hurricane season. There's a second benefit. It's a political benefit. I kind of wanted the bill to pass in some ways. You know why? Because in about 14 months, the elected officials in the House are going to have to go and face the voters in the midterm elections. And if the Democrats get their act together, that's a big if, okay, right now. But if we get our act together, and I say we because I'm a Democrat, I love seeing ads about the reduction of Medicaid. I love seeing ads about the mega donors to our president being the ones that get the tax break. I love to see that we've eliminated green energy in order to line the pockets of wealthy people. You name it, okay? It's a marketing firm's, dream to be able to conjure up commercials for the incoming midterms to talk about what these Republicans have done and why we should be thrown out of office. And of all the egregious things, I think the Medicaid thing is the worst. And it's going to be interesting. So the next thing that happens, so people understand, is this bill now goes to the Senate. All right. The Senate, they're not taking it up, by the way, in the next 24 hours. They're projecting to July 4.
I don't even think it's going to be that long.
Yeah, it may not be.
Yeah.
It may not be. But surprisingly, there are some voices in the Senate. A guy, Josh Hawley from Missouri, who is no liberal, okay? He's about as far right as could go. He wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal last week that said we should not ever be touching Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security. And it was like, I think everybody's eyes were like, oh, my God. But he's right.
Well, I'm a prime example of that. You and I were talking, during the last break. I've been on Medicaid all my life because I'm disabled. And ultimately, when I heard they were going to pass this bill or they were going to attempt to pass it, I'm thinking like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? Because that's my lifeline, so to speak. So we'll see, but I'm not happy.
Well, you shouldn't be. In Louisiana, 1/3 of all of our residents are on Medicaid. And, they did it in a clever way because they can claim they didn't take money from Medicaid. What they're doing is they're changing the work requirements so that it will free up more money. Free up more money is important to the Republican Congress because they've got a Freedom Caucus that doesn't want any more debt piled on. So they've got to save money in order to justify the tax cuts and everything else. they felt that Medicaid is the one to go to because, again, it's an $800 million or so fund.
Okay, so my question is, let's just say they completely get rid of Medicaid. I don't want that to happen, but let's say it does. What are they going to put in place? What other plan are they going to put in place to suffice what Medicaid was taking care of?
Well, my personal opinion, they're never going to take Medicaid away. They're too smart for that, okay? Too
Right.
politically savvy for that.
Right.
Because they knew if they touch any of the three areas, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, they're going to be thrown out of office. I mean, there will be no Republican Congress. So they're not going to do that, in my opinion. What they're going to do is chip away at things like the work requirements. Okay, if a person is disabled, a person is on Medicaid because of their income, okay?
Right.
Now they're gonna lower the work requirements so that you need to go work, and by doing that, less people will be on Medicaid, which means more savings that they could use for other things. That's how they're justifying this. Now, at the end of the day, I mean, come on, let's call BS a BS, all right? I mean, if you're taking away one of the basic rights of people, I mean, again, I don't know your personal situation.
Right.
We don't put that. But the reality is 1 out of 3 people in Louisiana are on Medicaid, all right? We're a poor state, all right? You're going to throw off, I forgot, you've got the number somewhere, thousands of people in our own state here that are not going to have health insurance. Well, what is that going to do? Think about the consequences of that, all right? You're going to have more people that are going to get sick. You're going to have more people trying to use emergency rooms. You're going to have rural hospitals shut because they don't have funding now for people.
More debt.
Yeah, I mean, it's devastating. And, you know, if this was going for some good cause, okay, if it was, I can't even think of anything, but basically what they're doing tax cuts so they could go to the wealthy donor class and say, we promised we were going to cut your classes. That's why you're supporting us. We delivered on what we promised.
So is it safe to say, I don't even know if I should be saying this on air, is our president a narcissist?
A narcissist?
Yes.
Oh, is there any doubt about it? I mean, we see that in the White House. We saw that yesterday with the meeting of the South African president, and we've seen it with President Zelensky. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt that President Trump is a narcissist. He cares about himself. You know, look, Mr. Elmo, hold on. We're going to come to you in a second here. I mean, people can criticize Joe Biden, okay? I, for one, given what was announced over the weekend with his cancer, I don't want to bash Joe Biden. But people bash him. People criticize him. But the one thing you can never criticize Joe Biden for is the man was a decent human being. He cared, okay? He cared for people. He wanted to see people not suffer, okay? And the policies he put up tried to help people. As best as I can see, this big, beautiful bill doesn't benefit anybody other than wealthy folks who don't need or care about Medicaid,
right.
Or, you know, Social Security or any of that.
That's what I was going to say, but you
Yeah.
beat me to it. They don't care.
They don't care.
Right.
And let me assure you of this, too. Don't be surprised when the bill passes. There is no way the Senate, in my mind, is going to have the backbone to go against the president. It will pass. It only needs 50 votes because if it gets to a 50-50 tie, the vice president breaks the tie, and there's a 2 or 3 person majority in the Senate. So it's going to pass the Senate. This is going to become law, okay? And it's just too bad. I mean, really, it's a shame that our country is heading in a direction where we are penalizing poor people, middle-class people, at the expense of lining the pockets of people that don't need it.
My biggest fear with this whole thing is that it's going to get bad, and I don't wish death on anyone, but it's going to get to a point where somebody's either going to go after him to harm him or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, folks, go out and vote not this fall, but the fall of 2026, because we the Democrats need to take back one of the houses, either the Senate or the House. That is what will stop some of the craziness of laws like this. When you control the presidency, the House, and the Senate, and I'll even throw the Supreme Court in there, when you control every branch of government, there are no barriers to the passage of laws like this. That in the history of our country, you've never seen such cruelty. And I think that's the right word. You've never seen such cruelty legislatively where you would take down benefits to people that need it the most. Okay? I mean, I can't say it any more direct than that. People that have to work 2 or 3 jobs, people that are disabled, people that are seniors, people in nursing. So that's who's affected when you take Medicaid down the way this is. Let's go to Mr. Elmore is with us. Let me see if I can get you without losing you. Mr. Elmore, you there?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for calling.
Well, the sad thing about this government, I remember a few years back where you could travel anywhere in the world, and people would ask you as an American, well, wow, what's going on with your country, your government? They say, well, we may not necessarily like your government, but we love American people. I'll be very honest with you. I'd be scared. I would not be comfortable saying I'm American going overseas now because what people are saying, it's not only your government is phony the $6 bill, your people, because you voted for this foolishness. So, again, what's so scary about it, and not scary about it, Trump is playing the hand. He's betting you the hand he's playing. It's not like he's hiding behind somebody else. He has told American people, Project 25 was letting you know the outrageous things that he said he wanted to do. And he's implementing, and you have people that don't have the BALLS to say that he's wrong.
100%. I mean, but when you control every lever of government, again, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, you have a boldness in you that says, hey, I can do whatever I want. Nobody could stop me. I mean, look, he announced yesterday, despite all of the weekend news about this plane that Qatar was donating to him, he announced yesterday, hey, I'm taking the plane. Here's my middle finger. I'm taking the plane. You don't like it? Too bad. Congress, overrule me. They're not overruling. I mean, Mr. Elmore, I talk a lot about Ukraine. I mean, I know there are people in Congress that absolutely despise Trump's policies to Russia. I mean, they want to see sanctions on Russia, but they're scared to death. They're afraid of politically waking up tomorrow and that President Trump has a candidate to the right of them. Okay, not right meaning correctness, right meaning political right. That is going to run in a primary, and they're afraid. All right, and the only way that, again, I don't think anything's changing the next 14, 15 months. More than that until the midterms. 17, 18 months. I don't think much is changing between now and fall of 2026. But listen, we better get ready for the fall of 26. We better be winning elections and taking over the House or Senate, or you're going to see much more of it. I don't know if you all saw the news today. Our president announces that Harvard University cannot accept any more international students.
Yeah.
Whoa. I mean, first of all, what would give the president or anybody else the legal authority to tell a private university who they can accept and not accept?
But my question is, what is the reasoning behind it?
Well, the reason behind it is he's got to stick up as where against Harvard. He thinks Harvard is the enemy. All right, they're the liberal, progressive, against everything I want to do. And I wanted to say this. I'm glad I could say this in the context of it. I don't want to hear anymore about anti-Semitism being used as the reason to penalize Harvard. All right, as somebody that is Jewish that knows anti-Semitism, could universities do better to protect students of all color, all ethnicity? Sure. But I'm not going to use anti-Semitism as the reason to take money away from Harvard or to tell Harvard who they should accept or not accept. Right. I mean, because if it starts with Harvard, where's it going? It'll be Yale, it'll be Northwestern,
it's going to be a domino.
Everybody, yeah.
But,
I mean, if you could do that. So,
Ernie, the hypocrisy of it almost, I don't know if I should laugh or cry. Maybe do both. the whole thing is,
at this
don't
point,
let the way I said it. Tulane, Paul Tulane is the gentleman's name. It's Jewish, founded Tulane. And the bottom line is, what made this country always great, that we had the privilege to disagree with our government. We had the privilege to disagree on a policy, foreign policy, or whatever was going on in this country. But the sad thing about it is that we immigrants. Listen, do you not know this is what people are saying? I do a little research on this, so I'm not just blowing smoke up your you know what.
Yeah, go on.
Our average citizen right now, don't laugh, the average citizen, if you had to put him on stand, and even pay him to be on stand on a contest on just basic civics understanding, couldn't even pass the test. And you're bashing immigrants. And these people are proud, not only proud to be Americans, they know this is as much about your country as you do, and you're American citizen. Average American citizens don't give a rat's butt about civics. If they forgot about what civics is all about. And that's why we're going through what we're going through. Because an average guy, average Joe, he don't even have a clue about our country, our founding fathers, our modern founding fathers. They don't even have a clue.
Totally right. They don't
have a clue about the fall of democracy in terms of what they call entitlements. It's Roosevelt. They don't even have a clue.
No, they don't. I have to tell you, Miss Delmore. I mean, and this transcends, race and everything else. Our young people, our generation of I have two daughters, 123, 120. I mean, when I ask them about world events and civics and anything else, they don't have a clue, and these are educated young women. They don't know. They're more in tune with what's happening in popular culture. If you ask them about a TV show or who's dating who, they could tell you that.
They can tell you that, but they can't tell you what's going on.
I'd like to say one more thing, Ernie.
Sure, go on.
I try to. I'm being very honest with you. When I call up a show like yourself, very intelligent people with you. I don't like the way it says, very intelligent folks. You're well-rounded politically because that's your profession. But I try to give a little substance when I call you. I just don't try to blow smoke, try to be Mr. Know-it-all. But when I call you, if you can remember, I try to give something back. I try to show a little something I know a little something, because I try to do research. I just don't be blabbing them out to give you opinion.
No,
I do my research. I make sure I think very, very carefully how I say what I have to say and what you bringing to us to say.
Well, I have to tell you, and Cary would agree if he was here tonight. He's not here, but we really appreciate it. You were, I think, the first caller to this show when we started about 6 months ago.
Yes, I sure was.
You were, and every time you call, you absolutely bring something to the table, and it inspires good conversation and hopefully good dialogue. So keep calling, and we will love to hear your input as we go along here. Mr. Elmore, I got to run to a break. They're telling me.
Yes, sir, I appreciate you.
You
Thank
have
you
a wonderful weekend.
Your host.
Wonderful weekend.
Yes, sir. You have a blessed one yourself, buddy.
Thank you.
WBOK. Online at WBOK1230.com.
Didn't catch this morning's conversation? No worries. The Good Morning Show is now a podcast on all your favorite apps. Just search WBOK Media, find The Good Morning Show, and make it part of your daily routine. Download it, share it, and rate it 5 stars. Start your day with something real.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
Missed a show? Want to hear that guest everyone's talking about? WBOK is now streaming on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search WBOK Media, hit download, share with a friend, and don't forget to rate your favorite shows 5 stars. Because when our voices are heard, our impact grows.
On Auto Trends with JeffCars.com, here's a snippet of some of what we cover. GPS pioneer Gladys West.
We worked long hours computing trajectory orbits and satellite orbits, trying to get the data and everything correct enough.
Auto analyst Mark Bland.
14 new vehicle deals that happen in this country out of every 100 that women don't have a fingerprint on.
To tune in, check out Auto Trends with JeffCars.com. Saturdays at 4 p.m. on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
New Orleans. Are you ready for a voice that says what you're thinking? Who that, you might ask? Arrington Gavin. That's right, I'm your guy, host of The Arrington Gavin Show, giving you so much filled with bold opinions, real conversations, and zero sugarcoating. We're going to be diving into the issues that matter, politics, pop culture, and all the above, unfiltered and unafraid. Catch The Arrington Gavin Show weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Fridays, right here on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
I'm Wendell Pierce. Thanks for making WBOK your station. WBOK.
The Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
All right, we are back, 6:48. We got about 10 minutes to go. The one thing I do want to say, because I spend a lot of time, we talk politics on this show. I'm not some crazy anti-Republican. I mean, there are some very thoughtful, well-meaning, good Republican people. The problem I have is their voices have been muted. I know, especially in foreign policy, I think a majority of the Republican Congress really disagrees with some of our policies, but they're so afraid to go against the president for political reasons.
But why is that, though?
Well, to me, it's political because they're very concerned that when they run next, now even senators who have 6-year insurance terms, okay, they know that if they cross the line with the president,
that might jeopardize.
He's going to put a candidate up against them who's going to be more MAGA than they are, okay, and they're afraid of that. Look, we have the same thing in Louisiana. Senator Cassidy is running for re-election next year. He's got an opponent, John Fleming, our treasurer, who's on the right, and it's problematic. I mean, Senator Cassidy he's not a far left-wing guy. He's a, fairly moderate Republican, okay? Somebody I personally think is a pretty good representative for us. But, people are scared because they don't want to be primary to the right because they see how strong MAGA is. And we'll see. We'll see what kind of legs MAGA has, I, for one, hope that MAGA, after this president is done in 3 years, if in fact he is done in 3 years, I hope that MAGA starts to die down, that, we get back to more of a traditional Republican Party. But we will have to see. I want to talk just for a couple minutes about a couple bills that died, unfortunately, in Baton Rouge. One was a bill that Senator Royce Duplessis put up that dealt with non-unanimous juries. As you may recall, the law was changed a few years ago that now requires that before one is convicted, it has to be by unanimous jury. We were one of only 2 states in the country that allowed for non-unanimous jury. And this has historical racial implications, goes back many, many years, was very, very negative towards the African-American community in our state. So that law was changed, thanks to Senator Duplessis and others. Senator Duplessis then put up a bill for this session that basically made it retroactive, meaning that it not only going forward, but it would apply to past cases. And it would be up to district attorneys whether or not to re-prosecute cases or not. I, for one, thought this is a terrific bill. And I know there's a lot of logistics. A lot of the DAs came out against it, saying, there's no way we could retry people. It's old cases. The evidence doesn't exist. But my feeling is that we corrected a wrong, okay? When we got rid of the non-unanimous jury system. So if it was a wrong going forward, it's certainly a wrong going backwards. And, I think we could have dealt with some of the inherent logistics, by passing this. Now, even though it has basically died at this point, the senator did file a motion for reconsideration. I guess I don't know exactly that protocol. I guess it allows the Senate to take it up again. But to be honest, it was pretty roundly defeated. Only the Democrats supported it. I would like to hope that, folks on both sides of the aisle in Baton Rouge would look at the merits of this and the equity of this and would say that the senator's bill is a good one. We'll have to see if that happens in the remaining couple weeks of the session. The other bill that died that I also thought was pretty good was a bill that, again, Senator Duplessis put up dealing with the insurance commissioner. Right now, our insurance commissioner is elected. We are in the minority on that. We're one of only 11 states that actually elects the insurance commissioner. The other 39 states appoints that person. Not a perfect system either way, I have to say. I mean, appointments when they're made by governors and other people, mayors, if it's a city situation, doesn't always mean that the best person gets appointed. But the problem with the election of our insurance commissioner is there's been a history in Louisiana. And I'm not accusing our current insurance commissioner of this. I want to make that clear. But there has been a history of some corruption within that office. And more importantly, there have been election campaign contributions made by insurance companies, the same entities that the commissioner is regulating. It has become kind of a hot potato and kind of a battle, which is surprising, between the governor and the insurance commissioner. The insurance commissioner has come out very strongly against the attorneys, against the plaintiffs' attorneys. Said this is the reason for our high rates. There's been bills dealing with what they call comparative negligence. Right now, the law is if you're a motorist and you're 60% at fault for an accident, you can still collect 40%. One of the bills that probably has some support is that if you're 60% at fault, you're done. You can't file that lawsuit. So the insurance commissioners put a lot of blame on the attorneys. The governor has basically said, it's not just the attorneys. It's also the insurance industry. They're making a lot of money. He says, they can write more policies in Louisiana than what we're doing. We're trying to fortify roofs. We're doing other things. There's culpability by the insurance industry as well. And they put up a bill that basically gives the insurance commissioner the right to kick out an insurance company if he deems in his discretion that company's unfair. Surprisingly, the insurance commissioner is against that bill. He doesn't want that power. And, I think what's really going on, or what some of the pundits have said what's really going on, is that the governor wants to be able to go after the insurance commissioner, that if we can't get rates down, auto rates and homeowners rates, we can't get rates down, the fall guy is going to be the insurance commissioner. And that's why he would like to support that bill, that gives the commissioner more power. Commissioner doesn't want that power. It's kind of an interesting political twist. This is the only thing I know. Whether it be homeowners insurance, auto insurance, and I'm going to throw flood insurance into that, going forward, we got to do something here because we can't afford it anymore. We are paying so much more as a state for auto insurance than what other states pay. And we all know what our homeowners insurance is. And flood insurance is another problem for us. We got to get smart, creative people thinking through these issues, either at the federal level, maybe with some, thinking about backup or backstop legislation at the federal level or something, because otherwise we aren't going to have people in the state and in the city because we can't afford it, no matter how much we love it. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been a fun week. I had a couple great co-hosts Tuesday and Wednesday. Cary will be back Tuesday. We'll be back at 7 o'clock. Love to have you join us again. In the meantime, be safe. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. And, remember our veterans, okay? That's what this weekend really is set to honor. They gave their life and their limb in defense of our country and democracy. Good night, everybody. Be safe and be well.